Three, two, one, and hi, welcome to G3. It's our Halloween show. Ooh, I think we're on show 23. We're on episode 23. We're women who live, work, and talk tech, and we're super glad that you found us. If you haven't found our Facebook page yet, please find us at facebook.com/G3show. And you can also, I think you've kind of found the Ustream site, but if you haven't, it's ustream.tv/G3. So I'd like to introduce you to our panel today. My lovely co-hosts. Hello, Miss. Who is that up there?
Hi.
I don't recognize her. That must be Rebecca Woodcock. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
or Lady Godiva, or Miss Mermaid, or someone with some lovely hair.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had this wig in my closet, and when you said you were grabbing a costume, I thought, well, I'll be somebody. I don't really know who I am, but I've got really long hair, apparently, so I could be Rapunzel, I could be, I don't know, Lady Godiva.
Yes, let's focus on one of those. Maybe you will be Rapunzel. I don't know. I see you as a Lady Godiva, so. Okay, and hello, Miss Christy Wells, up in my upper right. And no Halloween hat
No
for you
Halloween
today.
costume, though. I guess I just realized I almost match, actually, other finger, I almost match our Ancestry colored wall, so maybe I'm the
go.
Ancestry brand manager full through and through today.
You're color coordinated for sure. And in my lower left here is Miss Mary Hodder on assignment or on location somewhere you can tell us about.
Computer History Museum. I'm at IIW, which is the Internet Identity Workshop, and there's a microphone in front of my face. Well, it's looking a little scary. Thank you.
Here, it was for you. See. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay.
Anyway, you can see I'm in the lobby. This is the entry, and so people will be walking in and out behind me. But
okay,
we'll see what happens.
We'll forgive them, and you can always, if it's someone you know and you like,
I'll just say hello. I'll grab them and
you can
pull
say,
them in.
Yeah, you can say, hey, come say hello to G3. And in my lower right over here is Miss Francine Hardaway. Hello, Francine.
Hello, everybody. This is my costume.
This is your costume.
This is my costume. I am dressed for Halloween. Lipstick on the pig.
Oh, no.
I'm
Okay.
actually in a client's office.
Okay.
And so it's hard for me to wear a costume and still look professional.
And you I'm doing it. What are you talking about?
Are you in a client's office? No. Are you being paid good money by a client to sit on a podcast? No.
Oh, I am. Now that's a trick. So I think we have to say another thing, which is
Yay, go Giants!
Giants. All right.
Oh my God. It was amazing last night.
Pandemonium broke out, didn't it?
Oh, I was in a bar called the Bender Bar. For people who don't live in San Francisco, this is like a bar that looks like a bar. It has strange art on the walls. It has dollar bills pinned to the ceiling. It's pretty amazing.
And what was going on there?
Everybody was shrieking and screaming. I mean, really shrieking and screaming. And then coming home, in the street, there were like a bazillion people in the street ranting and raving and, like setting themselves on fire and setting their friends on fire. It was wild. There was some guy riding on a skateboard in front of my Uber, and he was like conducting an orchestra while riding this skateboard. And
but that's just a typical day in San Francisco, isn't it?
It was awesome. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Well, I think the thing that was fascinating about the win last night too is my husband and I were sitting in a bar in the Inner Sunset, and every bar was packed out, and it was great. And we got about the sixth or seventh inning, and I hurt my ankle a couple weeks ago, and actually was starting to hurt quite a bit. So I'm like, I got to be done. I got to go back home. And so we actually went back home into the Outer Sunset where we live right now, and it was so quiet. It was kind of bizarre, but it was fascinating to kind of watch it because through our window we could see all of our neighbors' TVs, and so we knew everybody was watching the game. And then when we actually won the game, it's like we're all cheering in our house. We look over, and again, there's nobody in the streets. There's no noise. We hear fire rockets or fireworks from other neighborhoods. But then the best part was actually to be on social and watch Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and see, like Rebecca shared some vines of like the chaos in her North Beach neighborhood. And so for us, it was like, okay, we're kind of being part of the celebration because we can kind of see it on social, even though we weren't actually part of it physically in the comfort of our own home. So that was kind of a wild experience to be in.
I was in the Mission, but my friend Chuck Reynolds was in the Polk area, and he showed completely different videos from what was going on the Mission. And then Robert Scoble was at the Ritz, and it was like a real quiet, he was having a date night, in the bar at the Ritz with his wife. So you're right. Seeing how everybody watched the game on social was it was a unique experience where you could share without actually being anywhere but where you really were,
But I think the thing that was the fascinating most is I don't get FOMO a lot of times, but I had hardcore FOMO last night because it was so close to us.
Did you want to be in the Mission? Did you want to be in the
No, I didn't want to be in the Mission because that was a little crazy. I'm a little older. I don't need to be burning down buses and things like this. But I would have liked to have been in a bar, right? Like high-fiving 30 people and doing all this.
Right.
And we used to live in the DuBose Triangle, and so we had the Lower Haight right up the street from us. And so when we won in both 2010 and 2012, like the streets shut down. People are just having dancing, singing, having a good time. And I actually missed that. And I think because we were so close to it, and unfortunately by then I already had my shoes off and my PJs on, and so I wasn't going back out. But I think the FOMO was worse because it was so close. I could have gone had I really actually made the effort.
Right.
Steve was at a conference last night. Oh, yeah. Steve was at a conference last night, and he started watching the game in his hotel room. And I called him. We were sort of talking about the game a little bit, and I said, "What are you doing? Where are you?" And he said, "I'm in the hotel room." I was like, "Go to a bar or go downstairs. There's got to be something going on." Because, they were here locally. Well, they're in Half Moon Bay, if you call it local. And so, I think it is a lot more fun to, I agree. Here you have social media that's sort of allowing you to participate, but not be in the crowd, not be bombarded with people bumping into you, not getting, alcohol spilled all over you and smoke and, whatever goes on. So, you get a little taste of it, but you don't have to have like that full frontal thing going on, right?
That's what I saw
Full
in the
frontal.
Mission. Full frontal everything. This is like pretty amazing.
But I'm always kind of surprised that in this town full of, techie people, the techie people never seem to be really sports oriented, or the majority of them.
The techie people didn't seem to be out last night. That was something else that I noticed. That for a city that's supposedly dominated by geeks, these people in the Mission, in the bars that I was in, these were not geeks. I actually started to talk to somebody because they had a dog in the Bender bar, and I always talked to the dog. And the woman worked at an ad agency, and the guy was a lawyer. And I felt like saying, "What are you doing in this town? This is like completely different people than I ever see here." And then there were some guys that I'm not sure did much of anything.
So there's a couple of things. First of all, it's only about, I think it's like 7 to 9% of the San Francisco area is in tech. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that, most people, the other
people are not in tech.
92%, they're
There's
not in
actually a
tech,
lot
and they're
of
going to be
industry
out
elsewhere.
celebrating. I have to say I was at the dinner last night for Internet Identity Workshop, a ton of very geeky people. And we were in the Firehouse, which is a sports bar in Sunnyvale, because it's near the Computer History Museum. And, everybody who was there for the workshop dinner was watching the 20 giant screens that were all around us and was paying rapt attention and then was cheering, each move on. And then when we won, I say that because my dad has been a Giants fan and had season tickets since, the late 50s or early 60s, whenever they got here. So, it's kind of a family thing in our family, even though I'm not that much of a fan. But, everybody's chanting for, including the geeky people with our conference for, a good 20 minutes afterwards. And I mean, the whole place was just jumping. And so, there's
So I'm
a few
wrong.
geeks.
So I'm wrong.
There's a few geeks. Well, there's some, some that did, some that didn't.
Tina, I have FOMO. Can I leave the room for 1 second and bring back something that'll make me feel better?
Sure.
How can you say no?
Yes.
You can't say no. It'll be a visual,
Go ahead.
I promise.
Go ahead. Go.
It'll be good.
Okay.
Well, actually, when I was videoing all the chaos that was going on in my neighborhood, well, what you saw was all the people jumping around and spraying champagne, and it was getting crazy and throwing fireworks. But there were also a lot of people who also just had their phones out, and it was just almost like a concert with a sea of phones. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting that everybody's just sharing right now on social media, and only a few people, well, a lot of people were going crazy spraying champagne, but there were a lot of people who were just recording all of this stuff going on.
Because everyone knows that if you don't get it on social media and you don't get a picture or a video, it hasn't happened.
It didn't happen.
Right? Right? Okay, Francine, what do you got?
Right.
I've got a dog skeleton
A
for
skeleton
Halloween.
dog.
It was right outside. It was
It
right
looks like the
outside
Grateful
the
Dead.
room.
That's-
And I thought, I should definitely bring this as Tina changes into her third hat and mask of the day.
You just
And I
need to
have,
keep them
like-
exactly in
I
that
have,
same
like-
position, Francine. Just keep them right there,
That is
staring in the
funny.
camera.
Okay.
It reminds me of the Grateful Dead, one of their music videos where they have a
Yep.
dog skeleton that runs through.
Isn't it adorable?
Perhaps if you could make its mouth move so we could animate
I was
it.
a ventriloquist, right. I don't think its mouth moves.
It can't talk. Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, it does.
It's got a big jaw. Oh, look at
wait.
that. Holy crap. Okay.
Okay, well, there. I feel better now. I don't feel quite like I'm missing something.
So speaking of social
Okay.
media and talking about things on social media, and if you haven't done that, then it hasn't happened. We noticed that there was a big announcement from Tim Cook today. So anybody?
So
have,
I thought that was an amazing announcement because
And
he
let's
is
say
a
what the
public
announcement
company
was.
CEO and a very quiet, private guy. And he came out, and this must have taken a huge amount of thought on his part and a discussion with the board and, some discussion about whether it would affect the stock price. And I thought it was really incredible, and it was a signal of how far the country has moved since, say, I don't know, 30 years ago or 20 years ago, or when, like when I went to college, no guys could come out. They just couldn't.
So honestly,
and gradually, it's
yeah.
been happening over my life.
So honestly, I just learned about this on the Gilmore Gang because we recorded that just before this show. We don't usually do that on Thursday, and I quickly read, but I don't know what the was there an impetus to do this now as opposed to some other time, or was there
That's what I was wondering.
some reasoning behind why?
Well, this is what I'm guessing. first of all, he wrote an opinion piece for Bloomberg, which was a very interesting choice. And, Joshua Topolsky is now the editor of Bloomberg in tech. And I'm not sure whether anything had anything to do with anything, but I see that Bloomberg was a kind of a good choice of place. And what he wrote about was the fact that he had to do his part. He felt like he wanted to be a private person, and he is a very private person, but he was thinking about how everyone in society had to do his part. And he felt like he wasn't doing his community, the community that had been so good to him over the years, any good by not coming out and not helping make it a recognized thing that people, really didn't have to be in the closet about ever. And he thought about all the Apple customers and the younger people, who could now talk to their parents more openly because they see that their sons and daughters could be public company CEOs, even though they're gay. So he did it because of that, and he said he's not going to talk about it anymore.
Well, and I think it's interesting, and I think it's been interesting to see kind of some of the feedback come back, in that it's not so much about him coming out, because actually he was already out to friends and family and some people that knew him already, but it was more of him just confirming his sexual orientation. But I think that's the thing that I wish for our society kind of move forward, because do I have to come out tomorrow and to say, hi, I'm Christy Wells and I prefer to have sex with men, right? And I think it's a shame that we're still at a point in our society that this is newsworthy. And that while I applaud why he's doing it, because he does try to help bring awareness to this to hopefully start breaking down some of the walls that still exist, I guess I just still wish that we weren't in a place that this would have to become news and we'd have to discuss it. But I applaud him for doing it. He's
sure.
He's confirming.
I wish we didn't have racial discrimination either,
right.
But we do, and everyone has to keep on helping to move us forward. And, because I have the long view, which is code for I've been around for a few years, I see how every little step helps and moves us forward. And it doesn't come in large leaps. When you do social change, it doesn't come in big leaps. It comes in tiny steps.
I totally get it, Francine. And like I said, I absolutely applaud him for at least putting it out there and feeling a need that he should, or he needs to kind of help channel these discussions and show, that who you choose to have as a partner should not inhibit what you do in your career or your, social life or whatever that may be. And I guess it's interesting when they use the word that he's come out, because he hasn't actually come out because he's already out. He just hasn't really talked about it publicly. So I think there's some framing about that too. And again, I'm a dreamer, right? I'd love there not to be racial tension, and I'd love there not to have to be where who you choose to have as a sexual partner is newsworthy, and what I eat for breakfast tomorrow doesn't really matter either. And so I just think that there's things that we're on the path to doing that, and so this, I guess, is a good step in that direction.
And you notice that he waited until after Apple released its earnings. That is that to me was very interesting, that they released all their big products and they released their earnings. And it's like, 2-3 years into his being CEO, where he finally decided he must have the total confidence of the board. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
So still no particular reason.
Every time I think it's time to put down the dog.
So still no particular reasoning, though, for the timing of this, or there's no... Well, maybe we'll see, right? Maybe there is a reason and we don't know yet. Who knows?
Oh, what did the guys say on the Gilmore Gang?
They had no... They didn't know. They just said great. Great.
Right.
Let's move on.
I actually kind of wish that
that's kind of my attitude.
Had just shown up at a very public event with his partner. To me, that's actually a better way to do it, because it does what, Christy and Francine were talking about earlier, which is just make it a part of normal life. And I think, when you give in to the whole notion that you have to make an announcement, you're giving into the non-default. Now, that said, I mean, this wasn't exactly about gay politics or straight politics, but there was a fantastic article that came out, I think, last week, written by a Berkeley professor who teaches about identity politics, and I'll post it. I think we shared it amongst our group last week, but I'll post it to the G3 thing, where he talks about the notion of the word douchebag, which can be a bit unnerving, I think, for women to use, because initially it sounds like it's a comment about us, right? So let me just explain that and then explain why I think it relates to Tim Cook. So the thing about the word douchebag is that, or douching generally, is that it's actually not really about women. It's for women. But it's a product made by male corporations, and I emphasize that because it came out in the...
Who think that women
out,
should smell a certain way,
right? Who wanted to dictate to women about what they do with their bodies, what we do with our bodies, the way that we smell, some sort of implication that there's something wrong with us.
That their inside should smell like strawberries?
Well, whatever, and in fact, Lysol, of all things, came out with a product, I think, in the 30s, which is appalling. Can you imagine putting that inside of your body? And that's what they advertised. Like, here, this is what you need to do. So, right, so this is an extremely dangerous and unhealthy thing for women to do. It was not developed by women. It was not developed because women asked for something. It was developed by male corporations. And so the notion of this Berkeley professor is that is the perfect word to talk about people who basically walk around in the world and both in unattractive ways name things that aren't the default and set themselves up as the privileged default. Now, how does that relate to Tim Cook? So it's an article that talks about what happens to anybody in our culture who can be named, and certainly there are some really unattractive names for people who are gay, which we don't necessarily have to use here, but we can all think of those names. And the notion is that that the defaults don't have to worry. And so what's more default than being straight, right, in our culture? And so the thing that you hope for is that you can get to the place where privilege and defaultism are reduced, and you have a society that actually just lets lots of what previously should have been non-default behavior also be the default. And so that's why I say it would have been great if he just showed up at a really public event. Hey, and
see, I disagree, because if he just showed up at
a public event, what do you think would happen?
Well, I disagree too, because he may not wanted to involve his partner, and that's if he wanted to make it about himself and doing something for the community. Maybe he didn't feel like it was the right thing to involve another person or expose them to that. Maybe that's not their choice. They don't want to talk about it. So I think he did the responsible thing, unless that his partner really wanted to be involved. But yeah, I think this was his conversation with the community, and that doesn't necessarily mean that his partner should do that.
But the thing
I also disagree because...
Hang on, Francine, hold on. Go ahead.
Okay. The thing that you hope for is that we get to the place where people can simply act and be without comment. Mm-hmm. And that's the place that I'm hoping we get to. I mean, my sister came out and first she told my brother and I that she was gay, and we were like, yeah, whatever, we already knew. And then she told my parents, who were, I think, actually kind of knew, but didn't want to admit it. And so they were shocked, and it was a big to-do. And, you just sort of wish that, people were able to just be who they are without having to hide it for a while and then come out publicly with an announcement. I mean, that serves to further reinforce what's the default. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. And so you're right. Tim Cook makes his decision. It's his decision. Maybe his partner doesn't want to come. Maybe he doesn't have a partner. And maybe, and so maybe it wouldn't work. But I'm just saying, that's what you hope for. You hope for the time when, we can just be who we are, and there is no real comment. It just is.
Right. And I think that's what Christy was echoing before, which is, it's like, okay, now we know this, but like, what does that really do for us, knowing that the CEO of Apple is gay? I mean, it has it has absolutely nothing to do with his how he conducts the company, the decisions that he makes, how his, so why do we care? And now that we know, what do we do with that? I mean, anything? Yes, Francine.
I think in other countries it's really important. Remember that Apple lives in a global world and has the opportunity to influence a global world. And I'm guessing that Tim Cook is aware of that, and that going to an event where he's seen by his partner has one kind of impact, but putting something out on the internet where it can be seen by, people in, for argument's sake, Iran, or other countries, that has a huge potential impact that just appearing at a public event doesn't. And I think that I'm not sure that that has still any business value, but I think it has an enormous amount more social value.
Okay. Well,
next. Next.
I'm, again, I think the only thing that we can glean from the statement was that there was some desire to hopefully help, like
Exactly.
that, maybe if someone knows this about me, it will help them in some way. Maybe some family will be helped or comforted, or some person, but that was the only thing that I gleaned about, the why, and the now, why now. I still have not a clue. So, okay, well, I just thought maybe y'all had some more insight as to the, why the statement was happening now. But I don't think we know. And sounds like now everyone knows, and now it's over. That's good. Yeah.
On to some tech news.
Well, yeah. What's techie in the newsy today, or this week? What's
Google Nexus 6 and Nexus 9. The Google Nexus 6 phone, which is even...
I'm sorry, that was not a comment on you, Francine.
Whoa.
Because I'm just so damn Apple-centric, and that's my thing. So let's hear about Nexus.
Okay, for those of you who are really Apple-centric, perhaps you could go get a beer now. But for the rest of the world, which, is on Android, let me explain to you that the Nexus 6 sold out in less than 1 minute out of the Google Play Store. The Nexus 6 is a 5.5-inch phone. It's bigger than the iPhone 6 Plus, which, Tina, I already have. And I wanted to buy one because I actually love the Android ecosystem much better than Apple. And I wanted to experience Lollipop, but I could, which is the next version of the Android operating system.
So, Francine, if I remember correctly, didn't you get more into the Google ecosystem when Google Glass came out, and you wanted to sort of be,
right
in it?
I did, and I got a Nexus 5 phone. And to be really honest, I was very Apple-centric until then. And so I got this Nexus 5 phone, and so that I could integrate more fully with Google Glass, which I have since discarded, as being relatively useless, but let's talk about at the time. And what I found is that I really liked Android, and like the Android geeks keep saying, it's way ahead of Apple. The notification systems are better. I mean, I hate to be all Kevin Marks, but the notification systems
Don't tell
are
Steve Gilmore it's better than notifications. Ay, ay, ay. Go ahead.
Oh my God, the notifications are awesome on Android. And although there are some apps that don't exist, just the whole way it runs is in many ways more intuitive than Apple. And that's just KitKat, which is 4.4 point something, that operating system. So I can't get the Nexus 6 phone for a good long time. So I might go get the Nexus 9 tablet, despite the fact that I have a Nexus 7 tablet and I don't need another tablet. But I just know that the operating system is better and that Apple is actually for the consumer, whereas Android is it can't be for the early adopter. Actually, I'm wrong. Never mind, because the early adopters have gone to Android, but so has most of the world.
Okay.
Oh, look at you, ladies! You're so. Are you now? You're really mad at me?
No. I'm actually futzing around with Christy's feed because she had to walk into another room and then I lost her. So talk amongst yourselves for a moment. It was as I fix this technical problem.
If she doesn't come back with a dog that's a skeleton, then she's not excused.
You're right.
I have no dog.
Oh.
I hear your voice, Christy, but we only see your.
Yeah,
you need to send video.
Chat.
Oh, sorry, I'm on it.
Oh, maybe I need to send video too. How's that?
Take my cracker. Yeah.
Still can't see you.
You can't see me?
Nope.
Okay, so Rebecca, there's a
Yes.
lot of digital health news, a huge amount of digital health news. And everybody and their brother-in-law has a smartwatch and is using sensors to track everything. Is any of this ever going to end up in the healthcare system?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. Well, yes, it will, because actually some of the health systems are using trackers as incentives. So, for example, health insurance companies, they are using trackers, or some of them, not all of them. There are a few cases where trackers are being used to basically give rewards or incentives if they can gather that information for you. They do the same thing with biometrics. They give you incentives if you take some biometrics tests and then share the data with them. There are also some hospital systems that are testing out some programs for the elderly and managed care. So already there are cases where that data is being incorporated into your health records. It's not necessarily deployed on a national or mass market scale because, quite frankly, the system isn't ready for that. They can't even figure out how to release their own data, let alone incorporate someone else's data on a grand scale. But in these isolated cases where there are more forward-thinking health systems and insurance companies, for better or for worse, they are doing pilots to actually incorporate that.
I actually see more advanced. The trackers seems to have stalled, whatever sensors there are, and, smartwatches have stalled. But where I see much more innovation is in diagnostics, biomarkers and scans and things like that. That's pretty amazing. Theranos, where they take one drop of blood and they can diagnose 100 diseases. That's in Walgreens now.
That's incredible.
I just had the successor to the colonoscopy, and much as I don't want to talk about shit on a podcast, I'm gonna. because everybody over 50 is supposed to have a colonoscopy. And I had one, and I had nothing wrong with me and no polyps and anything, and it came 10 years, and they wanted me to have another one. And I was like, no, I don't want to be anesthetized again, and I don't want to have the chance of having them poke my spleen again, because there are risks involved in colonoscopies, but I still want to be screened. And lo, something manifested to me by a company called Exact Sciences, a San Francisco company that had just gotten approved by the FDA for an at-home test that you do yourself and then mail back in.
Oh,
and
no kidding.
No, and it passed Medicare approvals too. So we are not going to have colonoscopy screenings for much longer if we're normal, because I just took this test. And it's
supposed to be about, what, 92%?
That's
I mean,
great.
the high accuracy rate, too.
high accuracy rate.
Yeah.
So
That's really
a lot
good.
of these, the very interesting thing that I see from it is that it's doctors have built whole practices on endoscopy, which is what killed. Oh, come on, the funny woman.
Oh,
You know who I'm talking about. She just died.
Oh,
Joan
Joan
Rivers?
Rivers?
Not
Joan Rivers,
Joan
right.
Rivers.
Right. So the endoscopy, is the same thing. The endoscopy is when they go down the top, and colonoscopy is when they go up the bottom. And those things have killed a fair number of people and injured a great many more. Well, we're going to get to replace all of this with genomics and biomarkers. So the part of tech that I'm most interested in now is biotech and digital health.
Wasn't there some other
That's really interesting.
I'm not sure
too,
what it was,
because-
but it was like a Google thing, some sort of nanoparticles.
Oh!
Isn't that a big deal?
Yesterday,
Pill. The
scans for cancer.
Scans for
yes,
cancer.
a pill that detects cancer.
Scans for cancer cells in your blood and sends the cancer markers back to your cell phone. And actually, it's a Google X project. And so they're looking for partners to commercialize it. And I know there are a lot of people working in biomarkers and DNA and genetics and, all the stuff that actually Christie's company, it helps us figure out. And so I see all this is going to really come big data, digital health, genomics, the biomarkers in the blood. It's pretty amazing what's going to happen in biotech. And by extension, it makes notifications seem very uninteresting. You know what I mean?
So hang on, Mary, 1
Yeah.
second. So often, one of the biggest complaints in this town or in tech is that we're doing stupid stuff. We're not solving big problems. There's a lot of big problems in the world. So this stuff makes us happy when we hear this. We go, finally, somebody's getting to some of the big stuff, and we all, get really excited. Mary, go ahead.
And it's not Snapchat.
Yeah.
So I was going to share that on Monday night at the Customer Commons, which is an org that I'm on the board of, held a salon, and we talked about health data, health kit, health systems, health technology, and Rebecca was a speaker. I invited her to speak along with Brian Bellendorf and Adrian Gropper. And we had a really interesting discussion about this, about these same issues, and it was fascinating. I mean, it really, for about 2 hours, we got way into, what's going on and what are some of the challenges. But one thing that really came out of that, repeatedly was, what is the structure of the data? How does it get shared? How do you get a copy of your data so you could keep your own, health record system? I mean, we didn't have answers for those things. And the three speakers were, there's a lot of stuff to work on still.
But raising the issues.
The issues and talking about, and then there's that privacy thing. So, one of the problems, like Walgreens just announced that they're going to, in exchange for activity tracker data, they will give you a discount on, I'm not sure if it's just pharmaceuticals, like, prescriptions or whatever, or if it's everything in the store. So I'd have to go look that up. But It's very interesting to me that they'll do that.
What? What was the
If you give
discount
your
if?
activity, if you share your activity stream. So if you have a tracker and you have a stream of data, you share that. So Fitbit or something like it, which is really great. But here's the problem: what happens if you show up as pre-type 2 diabetes, and then they're selling that data, right? Because you don't own it, even though it's you paid for your activity tracker. It's your data. You're just sharing it with them. I mean, in other words, we have a lot of stuff to work out that's not just how the technology works, but like what's going on, because decisions will be made about you. So
because
it's
they
not
don't
just
like come
privacy,
to
but
you
control.
piecemeal and say, "Hey, Mary, can we share this little piece of data with this company?" They don't do that individually. They just,
In fact, they're
they have
saying
a policy.
if you give us the whole thing, you get a discount, and
Yeah.
we're just mum on the notion about what the control over that data is, or the sharing. So they're going to share it with insurance companies, and for the rest of your life, you may pay 50% more on your health insurance premiums. You won't know that decision was made for you to up your premiums because you shared your activity stream stuff with Walgreens.
In a
So
sense, you're getting
there's a lot of
bribed,
crazy-
and you may pay for it dearly in the end.
Yes. And so it's
I don't know.
a
Is that
frightening issue.
data governed by HIPAA, though? It might be governed by HIPAA, and it may have to be anonymized. So that's a question to ask. I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying that it's a question to ask whether that kind of data falls under HIPAA regulations, and Walgreens can only aggregate and anonymize it and not send it to your insurer directly.
Well, so there was an interesting article that I found yesterday, which I'm going to find and post on our G3 thing, which I would love to hear Rebecca's comments on this too, where they did a study of, for the first time this year, the federal government is starting to audit whether or not companies and providers are complying with HIPAA. And they found that almost all the providers are out of compliance. Many of them are not doing anything at all to comply, and because of ignorance of the way that HIPAA works and the law, they're actually doing stuff that actively shares personally identifiable personal data. And so even with HIPAA, which I have to say, when I go in and they ask me to sign the thing, I personally just look at it and think, wow, this is just a freaking joke, because I know my data is spewing all over. I have some personal proof of that. I had an insurance company a few years back accidentally code my birthday 10 years ahead of where I am, and all of a sudden I was flooded with information, and then I had to track down where it went, and I found out my insurance information and my medical checkup information was going to Axiom. Hello, data aggregator, writ large, selling the data all over the place, and they were. And then when I finally got my data, my birth date backed out, it all stopped, but it only stopped because of the birth date change, not because I said, hey, you cannot share this information.
But medical information. I'm the widow of a doctor, and for a short time I managed his medical office. It was dreadful. And here's what I found out.
One doctor?
One doctor. Everybody, an X-ray, a radiologist. Everybody's medical information came and went until maybe a year ago. Now they've forced it online. Obama forced it online, but everyone's information came and went by fax. And anyone walking by the fax machine had access to the data anyway. So
Yeah, but still there's
it
a
was
limiting
never
factor.
private.
There's a
never
limiting
really private.
factor around a fax machine compared to my insurance company sharing it with Axiom, who then sold it to 50 companies, and all of a sudden I'm getting 50 different mailers from 50 entities.
Right.
That's way more extensible and complicated than somebody walking by a fax machine and saying, oh, I didn't realize Mary was 10 years older than she is.
There's a breach of
I don't know.
privacy, and then there's a huge breach of privacy.
Yes, it's
The
just so
problem
extensible.
with-
So
The
anyway.
problem with HIPAA is that it really never specifically defined how to keep sensitive data private. And especially in a technology world, what data is private and what isn't, and how it's shared, and how the rules never were that explicit. And so let's say you have some data that you share and you thought, oh, we're just going to we're going to anonymize it. And in reality, so a name and social security and none of those things are actually tied to the data. But is it still a violation? Because based on zip code and date and service and doctor, can you triangulate and figure out who that person is? So now at what level are we actually violating HIPAA? There's really nothing to explicitly define that. And then also, where does health information and personal information, and where are the lines for what can be shared and cannot be shared? Those some to some level have been defined, but not. I think there needs to be more work to do to actually say specifically what can you and cannot do with this data, the specifics of this data. And there's a lot of potential variations to actually say, or get confused, like maybe we can do this with the data, maybe we can't. HIPAA doesn't really, we think we're anonymizing it, we think we're aggregating it, what's real. So I think that's a problem. And then actually going back to Francine's original comments around how the colonoscopy and the blood test, those things are really revolutionizing how we're being diagnosed and treated for, or mainly diagnoses. This is such a disruptive thing because it's really fixing some massive inefficiencies in the healthcare system. And colonoscopy is a classic example. You go to any given hospital and the price could range from $1,000 to $100,000. We don't know. The healthcare industry talks about this as a classic example. And the health systems, they're still in the business of charging for service. So the more they charge, the more they make. So the fact that there are companies that are doing at-home tests for something like this with the accuracy and the level that they're doing, or this pill to diagnose cancer, or the blood test in one drop at Walgreens, super flattening the diagnosis industry, reducing costs, making it super accessible to people, and taking that power away from the hospital systems to own the cash and make everything so expensive to inflate. This is the interesting part that I think that Francine brought up.
Kind of makes me think about the medical marijuana too. Legalization of marijuana for medical purposes.
This test costs $500, and it costs $500 from Exact Sciences, and it's reimbursed $500 by Medicare. And it's going to be interesting to see how the doctors and the hospitals build services around it, so that they can make some money off of it, because if you ordered it by yourself, it would cost $500.
Right. Of course they will, because that's revenue that they're going to be losing by you doing it at home.
Right. Right. And it's so convenient, it's so much more convenient to do it at home, and you don't have to spend days fasting and, the other stuff that everybody hates to do, which is why people don't have.
Christy, your company does something that we used to have to go to a facility to get a DNA test, and now they send it through the mail. But by the way, I always wanted to know, how come we can't do this internationally? Is it because we can't send like saliva samples through the mail, or is that right? Oh, your audio's off. Your audio's still off.
I know. Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
There's just some background noise, so I turned it off.
That's okay.
Yeah, there are some rules and regulations that we are under at the moment where we can't distribute this test internationally. So it's, we're working on it.
So
all I can say.
Just to follow up on this, I'm going to post this article, but there's a proposed law in Arizona. Hello, Francine, please help with this. To fire women for using the pill. So there's an example of people getting data and basically proposing an extreme, consequence
that just can't
for having
be.
your medical information.
Can you please explain this, because I don't understand this at all?
Okay, I'm going to explain this in ways that make nobody happy, and will probably get a lot of strange comments. But here's the deal about Arizona. Arizona is a state in which people do not like anything the federal government does and wants everything to be states' rights. A state in which Mormons who believe in large families and other people who believe in the subjugation of women live. And these are the people who vote in primary elections. And so the Arizona state legislature is made up of these weird ass crazies who subject the rest of us to these, little, let's call them quirks that they have. And a lot of those quirks appear to be about women. They just are. But every once in a while, they get something on the ballot, and the state at large gets a chance to vote on it. And guess what? We have medical marijuana. Because if indeed you look at the actual voters in Arizona that actually vote in big elections, they're normal human beings like myself. And that's how you get laws like that, Mary. I mean, I didn't know about that law, but I'm so not surprised because I've lived here for 45 years in Arizona.
So I
Mary,
wasn't proposing that you were responsible for it, or I mean, I didn't mean it in that sense. I said, please help us to stop it because you live there and you can vote against it. That's what I meant.
Okay, but I'm still not exactly sure what this law is about. So you said something about to penalize women or for using birth control?
Basically, apparently, this is what I'm reading, and I just posted it to our G3 thing, our G3 page in Facebook. So basically, apparently, the proposal is that employers would not be penalized, or they couldn't be sued if they found out that an employee was using the pill and then they fired that woman.
Well, you can fire. Okay, first of all, Arizona is it's an at-will state, so that you can fire people for, anything. It's like they fire people for being gay. They fire people for anything in Arizona.
I think
that's it.
I think the tiger was trying to eat Rebecca. I'm not sure. Was that what was going on? Well, let's
kiss.
We haven't actually met Christy's friend, the tiger. So, who is this?
He's the PR and social mascot here.
Oh, he is cute. He really is. Oh,
he hangs out in the corner.
And Francine's got okay, wait. I have to get a 2-shot of this here. Okay, we've got before and after, maybe, or. You ladies are having fun today.
I'm thinking the dog is eating the tiger. Is the dog eating the tiger?
I have a duck.
Okay.
And Mary's just like, this is nonsense.
What am I going to say? First of all, I don't have a stuffed animal. And second of all, I don't know.
All right, Mary's in the convention
It's okay.
center, the computer history museum.
I'm in the computer history museum. I could get you like a 50-year-old computer and stick it in here, but downstairs.
An ENIAC. That's right. Bring an ENIAC.
That's right.
That's funny. All right.
So, Francine, are you one of the only people on this show who have played around with Inbox and Facebook Rooms at this point, or has anyone else tried it? Them. I just said 2 things, so pick one. I don't care.
I have not tried it.
Inbox. I love Inbox. Inbox is Google's new interface for Gmail that lets you reorganize your inbox and get to inbox 0, and it does it in very clever ways. It bundles your incoming mail in things like promos and updates and social, and lets you swipe all of it away. And it's great because you can then later go read it if you want to, because it archives. You can snooze it, or you can pin it, which means that you're going to read it, and you can tell the app when you want to read it. And so it's a very interesting way of organizing an inbox. It is not intuitive as much as regular email is. And so far, it's not perfect in the sense that sometimes I can't open attachments. But, if Google doesn't do what always does with products, which is launch it and then let it flounder, it could be a great product.
If they keep iterating on it a little bit.
Exactly. They need to keep iterating on it. And pardon?
They've needed to do a sweep feature for a long time. People have been requesting that for years. So it sounds like this is something that comes close. I haven't tried it, but I might after you just told me about it.
Well, what's the problem, everybody? Why haven't you tried this? Everyone's on Gmail. Why haven't you tried this? Is it just I'll get around to it, or is it no, thank you?
I just haven't had time this week. It's been tough.
Yeah. I just didn't know that much about it to really care. So now that I know about it, it seems like something really useful.
Well, it was sort of
it's an awareness thing.
It was sort of invite only for about a week. I think it was maybe a little hardish to get at, and now it's I think it's wide now. I mean, I put in a request for it,
and if not, I'm sure I can get some invitations.
Well, yeah. I mean, I put in a request about a week ago, and a day or two ago, Google said you can have it now. So I'm pretty sure it's wide because I'm not special.
On the other hand, Tina, if you want to go to Rooms, I can tell you that I played around with that too because Steve started a Gilmore Gang room, and I think Rooms would be great if you're working with a team, but for me, it has no day-to-day use. You could start a room for G3. That would be useful.
Yeah.
But, in a day-to-day way, since I work basically by myself, I don't see that need.
Right. So, it is definitely for groups, right? It's for a bunch of people.
Right,
it's not a solo sort of act. So,
right.
All right. Well, I just wanted to see if we had gotten any further on those. I keep putting this right in front of Mary's face. I have to explain, or maybe sometime I'll set up a camera so that you can all see the studio, but it's constrained, and I have to get this shot coming in here this way, and I have to get the microphone, and it's not as easy as it looks. So pardon me and today I fiddled around with the camera, lowered it because Steve was on location. I had to do something else, and when I brought it over here, it was, I don't know, it was just all different. So people always call me during this show. My phone has been going off a million times. So we're about at an hour. Probably a little over. If there's anything burning, I do want to say something, Christy. We didn't get to say happy birthday to you, but I did put on a birthday hat for you last time you weren't here. I did want to say that we had fun on your Find a Grave event. We met at the San Francisco Columbarium and recorded some. They're not called headstones; they're called niches.
Yeah. So because it's a crematorium, they're called niches.
Right, and that was an experience. It was actually it's a really beautiful place, but this event was happening sort of all over the world. You had people in various graveyards and different parts just recording things, and it's for genealogists it's kind of exciting to see this I don't know, these events and communities sort of coming together and just building on this importance of record keeping. It's exciting to me.
It's the art of storytelling too, which I wish that we as a society would kind of get back into as well, which is, some people went to a cemetery and took photos of graves. We went to a crematorium and took photos of these niches. But for me, it's kind of like it's recording history, and it's also then being able to tell somebody's story forward so that they're always remembered. And I just think that there's great beauty in that. And you don't have to be a cemetery geek to be part of these types of events, but it's a good way to kind of meet other people and learn a little bit. Like, this building's existed in the city for over 100 years, and I didn't even know it existed. So, for me, it was just kind of a nice little treat to be able to get out there and see something outside of the norm.
Yeah, but you might meet some cemetery geeks if you do it on a...
That's true. Next time, we'll actually be in grass next time, Tina. You and I will walk some. My ankle will be healed. We'll walk a real cemetery.
Yay. Okay. All right. Well, sounds good, everybody. Mary, you've got much to do there at the IIW.
In fact,
how old is the IIW now?
It's number 19, and it goes twice a year, so that's 9.5 years. Next spring will be the 20th anniversary.
Wow.
So the first one was actually, I'm not sure, but I think it was 9 years ago this fall. I've been to all of them, at least even stopping by just for a moment. And the first one was at the Berkeley Hillside Club in the fall of, I want to say, 2005. Seems about right. So anyway, yeah, a long time. So it's actually been really interesting. I've been in sessions all 3 days, and I have been presenting user-submitted terms, which is something that we will do as an open standard in Customer Commons, and also the open notice and consent receipt. The consent receipt, part of that is an open standard as part of the open notice group. So I've been proposing those things. There's been quite a lot of activity, and it's been a pretty interesting session. We've had a lot of CRM folks here to talk about CRM and VRM. CRM being customer relationship management, and VRM being vendor relationship management. So one is top down, the other is bottom up, and we're meeting in the middle. And as I described it yesterday, it's kind of like going from kindergarten to first grade, like we're maturing in the VRM space. And so no more nap time. It's getting serious. So it's a very good growing pain to go through.
Okay.
Yes, good stuff. Look at you, princess. I don't know.
I've got a closet full of,
You really
I've got
do.
kids, so these things just sort of stay around. And so happy Halloween, everybody. I hope that you're all ready for. I'm a little disappointed that we may be getting rain here in the Bay Area tomorrow.
I know.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
It's gonna totally mess up
I know,
my
because
whole
I
front
finally
yard.
I finally have my shit together this year.
And it's going to rain on our parade.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ticker tape parade.
Oh, when is the parade?
No, the
Tomorrow.
It's
World
tomorrow?
Series Giants parade.
Yes, it's tomorrow.
On Halloween?
But I heard it was just going to rain
Yes.
tomorrow
Yeah.
night. Isn't the parade in the daytime?
Well, that's when
Yeah.
it's going to rain.
Oh,
It's
I know
supposed to
it's gonna
rain between
tomorrow
1 and
night.
5 o'clock. That's what
Oh,
the prediction is. Who knows?
well, that's
I
we
heard
can still
weather's
do our-
unpredictable.
yeah.
It's a little predictable. Okay. All right. So I was warned to not go long because actually I don't have a lot of hard drive
Gotta
space
go.
either. So all of a sudden the recording could just cut off, and that would be not so good. I'd like to thank you all for being here. Rebecca Woodcock. Oh, there she is. Oh,
Ooh.
something. Oh my goodness.
Chupacabra.
Wait a second. We have to see that.
Ooh.
Ooh.
This is such a bummer because I have these emoji masks at home and I just am not home.
Aw. Well, Francine, are you about to change that situation? You're thinking about a relocation, maybe, huh?
I am. Somebody needs to rent to a woman with 3 very well-behaved dogs. I'm putting it out there.
Okay.
And when it materializes, I'm up there.
Somebody wants to live with big dogs in Francine. Please let us know. Okay.
That's
Where-
right.
where,
exactly.
Francine?
We
But
are
where?
all very loving.
Where are you looking? Where are you looking?
What?
Like what city? Where are you
And
looking?
anywhere in the Bay Area will be better
Oh.
than Arizona.
So I'll just a little piece of advice on the Mountain View lists, which are for the neighborhood, and of course there are people that own rental properties and stuff. So one of the pieces of advice that they keep posting is that for pet owners, is that you can go. They all say we don't really list explicitly that we take pets, but we do. And basically, they like it when a pet owner comes to them and says, "We'll give you an extra deposit for your pet." So in other words, for those folks at least, and apparently this has become a common thing for landlords, if you offer, they feel like you're a proactive pet owner. So they don't, so work that.
I will. Oh, thank
maybe
you
you'll
so
do better.
much, Mary. Thank you.
It may in fact be negotiable.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cough it up. Okay. Rebecca Woodcock, thank you for being here. Is that just your hat sort of turned sideways? Because I love that too.
Oh, it's just my mask.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. It's my mask, just not
You're
fully
so-
covered.
And you've gotten soft on us, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Christy
it's
Wells,
just
you've got a
connection.
great signal there. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, you guys.
We're
Been
hoping
a
that
pleasure as always.
hoping that ankle continues to heal.
Me too.
Mary Hodder, thanks for being here, and thanks for finding a pretty quiet corner of the museum.
Right in the middle of the entry.
Yeah.
You can see all the people walking back and forth, waving to me. I've had several people walk up to me and just start talking to me, and I'm like, "No, I'm on a show."
Aw, that's cute. And Francine, thank your client for providing some nice space for you today, and we welcome you back. Thanks so much for being here with us again. We've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it as usual. So happy Halloween, everybody. Oh boy. I didn't start off with a great hair day, but it's gotten worse. So, thank you. A step outside your comfort zone. Go out and do something great. Come back and tell us. We'll hopefully give you some tools to come back and share these things with us. In the meantime, please remember to find us on you keep doing fun things. I can't cut away when I've got that. Right? So,
I've got to bail, though. I've got someone waiting to have lunch with me.
All right. So everyone, we'll just say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.